Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. Please forgive my very squeaky chair. I imagine as I move during the video, it will talk to us a little bit. All right, today I am going to show you how I attach the front and back inside and outside covers. I kind of alluded to it during the last video before I left for Texas, and then, well, I plan and life gets in the way. But today, for those of you who want to see it, I'm going to show you how I put the whole book together, minus the pages. We'll go through that for the rest of the week. But so the signature's done, the front and the back covers are done, and now it's just attaching them all together and creating some kind of a spine to cover up the stitches. And I had mentioned last time that I would do it two ways. I would use that brushed cotton canvas piece, and then I've also got some lace over here. So we'll do one way and one the other way so that you have options. All right. First things first, learn from my mistakes. When I did this the first time, I made an accordion, and then we've changed that to the fabric hinge spine. And when I put this together, I didn't measure. I don't know how well you can see, but one piece of the spine cover, for want of a better word, ends at about 1 inch, and the other one ends at about 1 3/4 inches. So I didn't measure that before I assembled the whole thing. So let's make sure we don't make that same mistake this time. When I am making the spine cover, I make it just a smidge, or I'll try to angle it down, just a smidge longer, bigger than the spine itself. And the reason for that is they never, ever line up perfectly. Well, at least when I make them, they don't. So if I've got it just a smidge longer or a smidge bigger, it doesn't show, and it still looks kind of cool here. So what I did to prep is I hemmed the edge of the fabric. And again, this is just a piece of kind of like, it's almost like an old oiled cloth cowboy kind of coat thing. I found it at a thrift store, I believe, or in a bin at Goodwill Outlet. And I really liked it, so that's what I'm using for this. And you can see this is ironed and unironed. When you iron it, it changes the color a little bit. Like right here, it's more like this. Whereas unironed and just folded up, it's got this kind of a texture and the color. So yeah, anyway, that's what that is. So I'm using this piece for the first one. And I am going to put the second one away so I don't do something silly and mix it up. And we'll use lace on that one. All right. So the first thing I did was I just made a simple hem, and I folded the edges over, making sure that the spine cover was wide enough to cover the whole back of the journal. I made it just a smidge bigger than a 6 1/4. I didn't really measure. I just made sure that it was larger than 6 1/4. And the other measurement that I want to make sure I've got is that it's larger than my spine. Now remember, these are the flaps that are going to attach the inside front cover to the inside front cover to the outside front cover, and the inside back cover to the outside back cover. So these flaps are important, but when I'm covering them, I want to make sure that they're covered completely. I want to make sure that they go all the way down and into it. So I've got more than I need here. I made it a little extra long on purpose, and I'm going to trim it down. This measurement for my flaps, I think, was 4. Yeah, it's 4 inches. So I want to make sure that I make this, when I cut it down, at least 4 inches. And I'm going to probably make it just a little bit more than 4 inches. So maybe I'll do like 4 1/4 or 4 1/2, maybe 1/4 inch on each side, so that I'm sure that I cover that whole piece. And again, I'm going to get my rotary cutter. I'll line it up on one side, and it doesn't really matter. They might not be perfectly straight. Okay, this is me. They're probably not perfectly straight. All right. So I make 1, 2, 3, 4, and I said it was 4 exactly, and I wanted 1/4 inch on each side, so I'm going to make it 4 1/2. And it doesn't matter that I'm cutting through my hemmed edge, because that's going to be covered completely. So there's that squeaky chair. Sorry. It's going to be covered completely, so it doesn't matter that I haven't backstitched on that. So I'm going to put aside that and these pieces, and I am going to cover this spine. And before I do the front or back, inside and outside pieces, I want to make sure that this is covered. And I am just going to cover it like this, and I'm going to use Fabri-Tac. One thing about Fabri-Tac to keep in mind, especially if you've gone, like if you decide you want to use your muslin or your linen or your lighter fabric, your Fabri-Tac will seep through this. This is not a tightly woven fabric, and it will seep through, and you'll see glue splotches. If you use too much Fabri-Tac, it will seep through. I've never had it not seep through at some point. With lace, it doesn't show so much because of the pattern of the lace, but it will seep through. So keep that in mind as you're putting it on. So don't go super heavy, but again, you want to make sure that it's covered. So what I'll do is I'll go a little heavier where it's going to be covered, and it dries fairly quickly, but not super quickly. So I have a little bit of wiggle room, but I don't want to take too terribly long. So I'm going to cover a little bit here, and I'm going to do a little bit more on the flaps because, again, those are going to be covered more than the other pieces. All right. Then I'm going to lay this down mostly flat, and I want to make sure that my hemmed edge is on the underside, right? And I want to make sure that it overlaps and that it fits, right? I want about 1/4 of an inch on each side. Is that about close enough? It doesn't have to be perfect. And again, because of this type of glue, you have a little bit of wiggle room. And I'm just going to smooth it down and make sure it's flat, right? I can use my trusty ice scraper to make sure, but the big thing is I want to make sure that this is attached. And you're going to see that as I push this down, it's bringing to light, and probably you can see here, this is just the way this type of fabric is. When something touches it, it kind of leaves a mark in it. It goes away eventually. But I want to make sure that they're adhered well. Now I could clamp it with my quilting clamps, but I don't really need to. It's in place. I've got the bottom edge covered. I've got the top edge covered, and I don't know which is which at this point, honestly, because it doesn't really matter. It's either side works just fine. All right, so I've got that covered. All right, that was my first step. Now I want to make sure my book is going in the right direction, that my pages are right side up, and they are. And now I'm going to attach the front, inside, and outside covers. Now I have to decide which do I want to be the front and which do I want to be the back. Honestly, I don't think it matters much with these. There's not any predominant thing on one. Because of the kind of closure, I'm going to use the same type of fabric, crocheted lace type closure. The front pattern is kind of more of a background. The other two journals I'm going to cover with the same type of a thing. I don't have the exact same one, but I've got things that are similar. So this is more of my front decoration. So these actual front and back covers are kind of fade in the background because of just how they are. So it doesn't really matter which one I do for the front and back. All right, so I'll decide. I just grabbed one, decided that this is going to be my front. All right, my next step is to put my front piece on that flap. Remember, we have these two little flaps that are what we're using to attach the inside and the outside. I'm going to attach the front piece to that front flap. What I want to be careful about is not going past where this fold is. I don't want to bring my cover up onto my spine. So I have to be really careful to make sure that my cover doesn't exceed the fold of the spine. So you've got that, what, half inch, half inch, I think is what it was. So maybe I'll even just fold it down like this so I can see exactly where I want it to go. And I will use my clamps for that. All right, I'm going to use, you can sew this on. And did I sew it on in the other book? You know, maybe I did. I might have. Don't remember, honestly. It's been so long since I made it. Like I said, life sometimes just has a way of not cooperating. I plan and it laughs. So I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac here. And again, I'm being careful to make sure that I stay only on that flap or that hinge. My page is the right direction. My cover is the right direction. And I'm going to lay my front cover down on top. Now, I don't know how well you can see it, but there is a smidge, maybe an eighth, less than an eighth of an inch at the top and the bottom. And I'll fold it down here so you can see. goes right up to, but does not pass that fold. And just for the sake of making sure it's on straight and tight, I will clamp this. It dries pretty quickly, so it's probably not necessary, but I'm doing it anyway. All right, I'm going to do the exact same thing on the back cover. So the outside front cover is in place. Now I'm going to do the outside back cover. Again, double checking to make sure that my page is going in the right direction. My cover pattern is in the same direction as my inside pages. And I will put the fabric tack on here. Oh, you can see here, I didn't put it up to the edge, so that gives me a chance to reattach where it needs to be reattached. Put a little extra glue. All right. And if it seeps out a little bit in here, it doesn't matter because remember, we're covering that inside edge. But I do not want, and again, I'm kind of overemphasizing, but I want to make sure that I don't cover up at the fold because that's going to be my back spine, right? All right. And you can see here a little bit because I put a little more fabric tack. You might be able to see that that glue has seeped through. It hasn't here because I went light, but this part that's going to be covered where I went a little heavier, it does seep through. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, with pattern paper or pattern fabric, it doesn't show quite so much. And with lace, it doesn't seem to show. Thicker lace, it doesn't seem to show quite so much. But if you use a solid color paper, or if you use, make sure it's not upside down, or if you use, you know, cotton or muslin, it's going to show through. All right, and I'm doing the same thing, checking to make sure it's straight, checking to make sure that it's even, that it hasn't gone past the edge, and I am going to clamp. Okay, now, as you can, well, you can't see because the clamps are there, but the ends of my flaps that are covered with fabric are about equidistant on both sides because I was careful to make sure they were close. I don't really care if they're exactly 100% perfect because it doesn't show enough. Like even here, it doesn't really distract from or show. I just know it's not even and it bothers me, but it doesn't really show. So keep that in mind. All right, outside, front, and back covers are on. Now I need to do the inside. And on the inside, all I'm going to do is take this panel that we covered. And if you've got little glue blobbers, I mean, you can use a rubber cement square and pick those up. But I intend to put pockets on the front and back covers in mine. Actually, that brings up another point somebody asked about. I've got a pocket on this one on the inside cover, right? I've got this envelope pocket that I made, but I don't have anything on the back. Well, what I'm going to do on the back is put another pocket, maybe another even window envelope pocket, and I'm going to put the list in. And the list is going to be like, okay, so I would call this page 1. Page 1, I have a tab, I have a journaling card, I have a tag, I have a matchbook, I have a button cluster, and I have a tuck. So I'm going to list the video number and the items on my page that's going to be tucked into this pocket. So as I'm going through, I'm like, oh gosh, these pockets, which video were those on? Or these square fold envelopes, which video were those on? Or double pocket journaling card, which video? All the way through. So with that list, I can easily look back and say, oh, okay, it's page such and such. Page 5, that is, let's see, what would page 5 be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. Well, that would be negative space. And so I would put the video number for negative space and journaling card. And I think that was video 1 or 2 and trifold flip. And I don't remember. I'll just make it up. That was video 10. Okay. So I can use the list in the back based on the page. Like, oh, I want to make one of these. And I can quickly look and see which video it is and which the item is. Some people were asking, because remember, originally I was going to put tabs on here, but there's so many different Scrapbuster ideas on each page that it got cumbersome and it just didn't look right. So that's my answer to identifying which each of the Scrapbuster items are. I'll put a pocket back here with a list so that I can refer to it. All right. Front, and this, there's no top, bottom, side size. They're supposed to be allegedly, they're perfectly square. So they're 6 1/4, 6 1/4, so it shouldn't really matter which way I go. Now some paper, like maybe your paper has a grain. This one has a light grain. You can see which is vertical versus which is horizontal. So maybe that matters to you. And if it does, you know, keep an eye on your paper. But what I'm going to do now this is paper to paper. I can use Fabri-Tac, but that is not my favorite choice of glue for paper to paper. I prefer the Reptile glue or art glitter glue for paper to paper. So I am going to use Reptile glue simply because I have it right here. And I am going to glue the inside front cover to the outside front cover. So see, remember I've covered it on the outside at the hinge, and now I'm going to cover the inside at the hinge. So when all is said and done, it is going to look like this. Okay, I'll have a smooth inside and I'll have a smooth outside. Now there's a tiny bit of dried glue on here, and I can get, I don't know if you can even see that. I can get that off with my rubber cement square because this will pick up dried glue once it's done. But honestly, that doesn't bother me too much because it's going to be covered with my inside pocket. All right, glue. And I am going to go a little heavy, but I don't want to go too close to the edge like I did right here because it will seep out. I don't want it to seep out. But I am going to give it a goodly amount because I really want these pages to stick together. This is going to get, you know, allegedly it's going to get quite a bit of use because the concept is it's an idea book. I want to be able to use it quite often. All right, a lot of glue. And then I am going to match up all the way around. And I want to make sure the inside closes. It does. I want to make sure the outside closes and that it's straight. All right, and then I will just start clamping until the glue dries. Now, if there's a section or a spot, I'm sorry, I'm down at the bottom again. If there's a section or a spot where it doesn't clamp, the beauty of these little itty bitty needles, needle glue spouts, I guess, is that you can, whoops, see, it moved. Glad I checked. One, the Reptile glue has a little bit more wiggle room than some of the other glues. And two, it gives me time if I do something silly like that. All right, I'm going to clamp these down until they're dry. And again, it dries fairly quickly, but I really want a good hold on this. And, oh, back to what I was saying. Because of this little itty bitty needle, if there's a spot that didn't get glued like it was supposed to, I can come back afterwards and add more glue. All right. And I will glue all the way around. Just clamp these. Now, on these clamps, there are little itty bitty teeth. I don't know if you can see them on the bottom. The top, the colored part is curved, and there's no teeth on that, at least. Well, maybe there are. I don't know. Anyway, every once in a while on my paper, I'll see a little bitty teeth mark, but to date, they have always gone away after I've removed them after a few minutes. So if you see little bitty teeth marks on your paper and you're like, oh no, there's teeth marks. Like I said, for me anyway, they've always gone away after just a little bit of time. Okay. All right. So there is the front cover going the right direction. Pages going the right direction, and I've clamped the inside front cover to it. Again, I don't really have anything pushing on this, but there should be enough pressure and enough glue with that it's going to stick. I'm going to do the same thing to the back side. See, I've already got these. Oh, here you go. You can see the Fabri-Tac seeped out a little bit, but again, that's going to be covered. And if it went past where I wanted it to go, it will come up with the rubber cement square. I don't know if you can see. Let's see if you can see that. It does come up with the rubber cement square. So if you do get somewhere you don't want it, this stuff will remove your, there you go, you can see there. It will remove the Fabri-Tac as well. And this is literally just an art rubber cement square. Or I think just rubber cement on Amazon. And you get a 2-pack for a few bucks. They're not spendy at all. All right, back cover. Okay. Again, I want a goodly amount of glue. I don't want it too close to the edge, but if it starts to lift a little bit, I can go back later and tuck some of that glue in. Now the difference between the covered spine, which was what I've got here, and the lace spine is how we assemble it. And I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. All right, I want to make sure these are straight and that they're lined up correctly. And I don't have all of my clips in. I've got them in the bin. So what I'll do is just take them. The front should be completely dry by now. So I'll take them off the front and put them on this back cover. Sorry, this is a bit tedious, but this is the process. And have had many people who are new say it helps them to see this step because they're new. And for those of you who are more seasoned, well, I apologize, but you're welcome to just move on. You can fast forward or what have you. And actually, to the next step, and then at the end, oh, look, you can see there's a little bit of Fabri-Tac out there. Yuck. Don't like it. So I'll come with my rubber cement square, and it picks it up off fabric too. So just keep in mind, but I don't know that it does it for every fabric. I think it has to do with how much cotton there is in your fabric. So, and I can do all that later. But that is how I attach the inside and outside covers. All right. Now my book is ready for the pages to decorate, and we will start doing that tomorrow. Some of you won't need that. I mean, it's because we've already done the videos that show how to make all the pieces. And then just by looking through, you can see, oh, she used a cropped off corner here with a bookmark. And she used 2 pockets here with 2 square fold envelopes. So some of you have been able to look through the original flip through of this and see how I assembled each page. And some of you haven't because you're newer, and that's fine, which is why I kind of did it in the order that I did it. We made all the pieces, and then we're attaching the front and back cover. And then what I'll do is, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, pages a day for the next several days this week. We'll come and finish all the rest of, okay, I've got them stuck together. We'll come finish putting the whole thing together. So for those of you who want that piece and want that direction, we will be doing it. Okay, enough on that. All right, so this one, the hidden cover, whoops, see, you can see, I'll do that later. The covered spine with the same exact cover that's on the original is now done and ready to go. All right, now we're going to do the next one, which is going to have the lace spine. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. When you're choosing a lace, one, you want to make it wide enough, and 2, you want it to match the feel. Like this, here's a great example. I'll pull this over here. Our cover has, because we covered the inside, we didn't cover the outside. If I were going to use a sheer or a see-through lace, I'd want to put either a piece of fabric or a piece of paper, cardstock, or something, because these stitches and this white spot will show through. So if I were going to use something thinner, I'd want to make sure and cover that. Also, this is a 2.5-inch spine, so I can do a thin lace, something like this. Here we go. Let's take this apart. So I could conceivably, with the way this is right now, I could still come back. Whoops, that's the wrong side. I could come back and cover this with lace, right? But that will show through. The Fabri-Tac will show through, guaranteed. So this isn't a great lace for that option. This is because of the thinness of this style of lace. It's a better option for like a belly band or to put over some tracing paper. So when you're choosing your lace, be aware of the properties of that lace. Here's a really cool vintagey one. And you know, that might look good because it's layered and sewn is the type of a lace that it is here, but it is directional. It all moves in that way. So this one could be a good one. But so this is on top of the brown cover that I've already done. Watch what happens when I put it on top of the white cover. Well, maybe you can see. Even with that thickness, right, you can still kind of see the different colors on there. So if I were using this one, and I won't because this should probably be with something more heritagey rather than something, I mean, it's not super delicate, but it's delicate enough that I don't want it to get worn out by the frequency with which this journal will be used. So this wouldn't be a great choice, but you can see if I were going to do this, I'd want to cover this either with black or brown or green or one of the other complementary colors that, you know, you find in these Tim Holtz papers. So that also wouldn't be the best choice. And I've got a couple others here. See, this is a really cool old vintage lace, but it's super thin. And again, it's going to be on top of a pieced together paper. And it just doesn't look great that way. I could double layer it and have this over it, but it's kind of got a different feel. This is more feminine and vintagey, and, you know, it lends itself more to, I don't know, for want of a better word, Victorian or feminine style. It doesn't quite go as well with this. So that wouldn't be one that I would choose. Now this one's great. It's nice and thick, and I could use this one because even though it still shows a little bit, it's thick enough that it doesn't show much. And would that bother me? No, not really. I wouldn't have to. So maybe this one, but it's a little long, so I would have to cut it, and then the edges would be frayed, which totally works for me because I like frayed edges. But yeah, okay, I see now that's just got a little bit different of a feel. It's going to have a little bit of an overlap. So even though this will be covered, if I were to use this, it would cover the edge a little bit. And again, Fabri-Tac doesn't show through as much with this really thick glue, okay? Or with, I'm sorry, with a really thick cotton type lace. This isn't a lace. This was a, I don't know, table thing that I picked up at a yard sale. And there's a little bit of a stain on there. And these have all been washed, so that's even with grandma's. But I could, and I still may. I really like that because they kind of, the paper and the pattern and this doily, for want of a better word, they kind of go well together. So maybe that's a good choice. Here is one. It's kind of a snowflakey pattern, so I wouldn't really want to use this. And again, I'd have to cover that. So I'm going to put that aside. Here's another one. Oh, it would go just up to the edge, but again, I'd have to cover it because of the holes, right? So I don't love that. Here's one, but it's edged on one side only. This was a piece that I salvaged from a pillowcase. The edge of the pillowcase was stained and torn, but this bit, I just salvaged that off. And again, now it's just a little too narrow. I would have to cover that, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, covering it's no big deal, but that's, again, not a good choice. And I've got others like that thin here, more feminine here. I just pulled out a bunch that I thought might be wide enough. This is really pretty, but it's totally the wrong vintage for this. It's the wrong feel. I have this one, which is a nice thick cotton, but you can see it's also got gaps, so I would have to cover. And then this is my last option, and this is kind of what I was thinking I would go with, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll do the other one. All right, so it's a nice thick cotton. It's going to lay over. It's thick enough that I can see the white and the black, so maybe I'd want to cover that with black paper. I don't know. You know, I think either way, I can still see the black through here, and I don't like it. So I'm going to get a scrap of black. Or I could use brown, but I think I'm going to use black. And then I've decided I'm going to use one of these two. This is probably, I don't know, 4 or so inches, 4-inch wide lace. And I like that it's edged the same on both sides. So where it wraps around on either side of the spine, it will wrap well, just like this one would. So I'm going to, I didn't even grab a scrap of black. Sorry, guys. I'm going to grab a scrap of black and cover that. Or I could use brown, but let me see. I think I have a bin of black right here. From my scrapbooking days, I've kept scraps of cardstock forever and ever. And of course, because I'm looking right now, I don't have any black. I'm completely out of black. Oh, no, I'm not. Here we go. See, I have these bags next to me with cardstock scraps. And it doesn't really matter how thick it is. This looks like it's file folded. It doesn't really matter because it's just a little bit of black that's showing through. I just need to make sure that it covers. And this looks like it'll work. And it's a different shade of black. And I know that's crazy because black is black. But no, it's a different shade of black and it's not quite wide enough. But you know what? That's going to be covered with the lace. So that'll work. All right. Scrap of black, and again, this is paper to paper, so I am going to use wet glue, but maybe I should have cut this down first. What did I say this was? 4 inches, so I will cut this to 4 inches. All right, now I'm going to put lots of glue on here. And I will put this piece on top. And I'm just going to turn it upside down like this. And like I said, the glue dries fairly quickly, but I just want to make sure it's a good, I don't want it popping off when I put the lace on there. All right. Another thing I need to do now that that's on is where these folds are, I need to make sure that I can see the crease, because that's going to be super important when I'm gluing the front and back cover on. I want them to fold exactly at the same spot. And I may put a little more glue on there. I don't know how well I got it on. All right, that is where my spine folds, and you can see I didn't put it on very well. Great, Corey, good job. All right. And that is why I generally clamp it and give it time to dry. That should do the trick. I'm just kind of pushing it down. I could use my ice scraper or card or what have you. Just want to make sure it's on. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the front and back covers on. I'm going to put the outside cover pieces on first. And I did this with the folds because remember, I need that crease with where I place the front cover. And I need that crease with where I place the back cover. And again, if it's not perfect, remember, it's going to be covered. I just did that for the color. Okay, front and back covers. Again, I need to make sure they're directional, going the same way. I kind of like this paper and the keys on that paper. So I think this will be my front cover. And my pages are going in the correct direction. This is the front, this is the back. I am going to glue this flap here. Now notice I'm using the wet glue because this is paper to paper. I'm not putting fabric on it this time. But I'm going to do the same thing. I want to make sure my crease folds and I want to make sure my pages line up. And I want to make sure I get a good adhesion. So I will still clamp these. And again, if when I come back later, there's a little bit of a pop here, I'll push this up. If it pops out a little bit or there's a spot where I didn't put enough glue, I'll go in with that needle and put that glue back down. All right, and then back cover, same exact thing with the back cover. Now you can see here, that's going to show, yuck, because of how I glued it. Well, heck, let's just fix that. Don't like it. It won't show at the end. Remember that, because I'm putting lace on top of it, cotton lace. You can use regular lace if you want to. And now actually I would have more lace options if I chose to, simply because I covered it so the color won't show. But I kind of like the feel of the thicker cotton lace with this as opposed to the thinner lace. It just kind of goes better, I think, with this type of a scrappy cover. All right, there's that. Making sure the pages, again, are going in the correct direction. Always double check that, triple check it, because that's one of those, oh man, major bummer things when you do put it on upside down. And I don't know anybody who's managed to not put it on upside down at some point. All right, lots of glue. Back cover. I want it right up to that fold. And I'm going to clamp it. Now, I would, 99% of the time, I would put the inside back covers on first. So the outside front and back cover are on, right? Like I said, 99% of the time, I would put the inside front and back covers on first. You know what? I do have to. Do I have to? I'm just trying to save time because this video is already getting ridiculously long. But no, I can put the lace on now. Now, do make sure it's dry before you put the lace on, because you want to make sure, like you can see, there's little itty bitty, well, there's not so much. But if there were any gaps here, I'd want to make darn sure that I had those gaps closed and adhesive in place before I put the lace on. Because once I put the lace on, that'll be covered, and while the gaps won't show, you won't have the stability and strength that you want on your album. All right. So we're going to pretend that I've put the inside front and back covers on. I do that exact same way I would the other one, right? Grab the clip. But for the sake of speed, what did I decide? Did I want to do this? Let's try this. No, I think I'm going to use the lace. All right, and when I do this, you know, lace almost always has a front and back. This one doesn't look like it's too terribly directional, but look, there's an ugly spot right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's an ugly spot. So I want to make sure that I'll use this for something else. It's not like it's wasted, but I want to make sure that that's not going to be on the spine of my book. And I didn't cut it perfectly straight because I'll always trim these at the end. See, I don't know if you can see that, but there's kind of like a flaw or an ugly spot. Maybe that's why I got it for such a good price. Okay, looking through color, fabric, looks good. All right, I cut it a little bit larger. And now I know some people say that's wasteful, but I just always seem to make a mistake if I don't cut it a little bit larger. And it's very easy to come in later on and cut it. So that's why I do it that way. All right, my technique and my technique only, or my preference and my preference only. When I put this on, I want to, again, make sure that I'm going in the right direction. And I do the spine first. So I'm going to cover the spine itself, the 2¼ inches, 2½ inches, I think we decided, 2½ inches. And I'm going to go close to the top because I want it to cover all the way. And you can see there's a little bit of a lift or gap there. I'm going to put a little bit in there. And again, it won't show because of the lace, but I do want to make sure that that's got a tight hold. Then I would normally put this in between my legs and clamp it, but I will save you that. I'm going to put this on and center it and make sure it's straight. Okay, I want to make sure it goes all the way up to the top. And when I lay this over, when I start to cover, I want it to be equidistant. Now, if it's off slightly, it's not going to show because one's the front, one's the back. But you want it pretty close because when you wrap it around, you're going to see that edge. So you want to make sure. Notice I didn't measure it, which is, for me, is huge. But it's really, truly not necessary. You just want to make sure that they're about equidistant because you have a little bit of wiggle time. Don't stretch it too much. It's cotton lace, so there's going to be stretch. But stretch it enough that it's flat. All right. And then push down and let that dry. Then I'm going to do the same thing. Once that's completely dry, right, I'm going to put my Fabri-Tac here and close this edge up. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Put my Fabri-Tac and close the edge up. And that is how you do the front and the back cover for the spine. All right, if that's all you wanted to see, thank you for watching and happy creating to you. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday, the 8th of July, I'll start with the inside of the book. But I do have a couple things for other people who'd asked questions or had comments or wanted to know what was next. So I saved that. One of the reasons I'm delayed is I struggle sometimes when somebody has a special order or somebody's got a special request. I struggle with making sure it's right and perfect. That's just not a strength of mine. So that's taken me a while, and I finally got that mailed, and all of my commitments have been mailed out, so that's good. To-do list. This is my to-do list for today, and I try to break it down and just do a little bit each day. All right, let's see. My cave. I will do a cave tour. I've got a sign that I'm making, refinishing. It's drying now. So I'll do an updated cave tour. I did put a new shelf in, a couple new things. I did do my signature rack. I did do my cotton frizz rack, and I will show you those once that's ready. We will finish putting this book together this week. So for those of you who want to see this page by page, what we did, we're not making the items because we did that in another video, but I'll have them all gathered and we'll put the pages together. Okay. So that is happening this week. Oh, before I forget, When I was making some changes to my cave, I found these. They are random packages of stuff, of paper type stuff for people new to junk journaling. And I'd mailed out some last time I updated my cave, but I have extras. So if you are new to junk journaling, I have 3 of these. There's no cost. I'll be happy to pay for the shipping. But if you're new to junk journaling and you comment below, the first 3 new to junk journaling, let's just say within the last, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 months, whatever. If you're new to junk journaling and you'd like some of the paper things we use, I've got these packages. First 3 people that are new to comment below, I will contact you. You send me your email or your mailing address, and I will put these in the mail. So that's just kind of a thank you, and, you know, here's a kickstart for junk journaling. All right. A mini a month. I wanted to start that in June. Actually, I wanted to start it in May, but end of school and life and so on. But I am going to start that in July. So July's mini a month will be of the flower theme. It's going to be my daffodil journal. So if you're wanting to do a mini a month with me, remember I said it's going to be a half of an 8.5 by 11 page. So it's going to be mini, but not super mini. And I will start that after the Stamperia Forest. I have had that on the to-do list forever. Notice it's circled. As soon as this book is done this week, I'm going to start the process of, I've already started creating it, but I'm going to start the process of showing you what I did. So Stamperia Forest, I haven't forgotten. It is coming. Etsy shop. I needed to get all that other stuff, the thank you cards and the commitments and everything done before I put anything in my Etsy shop. I needed to make that a priority. I had to get to Texas and get back, and Breck's first birthday, happy birthday, baby girl. All of that's now done, so I can focus. Etsy shop. I do have things. I have a lot of things, but I got injured at Breck's party, and my arm hasn't been cooperating. It's better, so I'm doing it. But my point is I'm putting things in Etsy slowly so I don't have to make anybody wait. I have, and will load today, Tuesday, the 7th of July, 3 2 and 1 whole ink boxes. The stain may not exactly be this color, but it'll be very close, very similar, because I had to get a new can of stain. And even though they're supposed to be identical, they're not always identical. And so there you go. 3 2 and 1 holes. I am not going to ship international simply because it is so absurdly spendy. If you really want one and you want to pay the actual shipping, send me a message on my Etsy shop, and I will do it for you. But really, guys, it's just, I want to say it was like $30 last time I sent one. It was just nuts. And I'm not going to raise the prices. Even though wood has gone up, I still feel like I can do 3 hole for 30, 2 hole for 25, the 1 hole for 20. Shipping, I don't remember what it was. It's always between $8 and $11 for this size. So I'm going to do a flat 10. I'll lose some on some and I'll gain some on others, but it's just way easier to do it that way. And let's see. I think it was a flat 10 for the 2 and the 3 hole, and then a flat 750, I think. I'll double check. But I think a flat 750 for the 1 hole for the shipping for the US. And again, if you're international and you really, really want one. Now, great example. I've sent these to some friends and some people love them and they use them all the time. I use it all the time because I really like to work in a tidy area. But other people don't. They get it and then they find that they don't use it. So really think about it before you decide that it's something that you want. I love it, but it's certainly not for everybody. All right. Those are going in today. 2 for $5 envelopes. I will list those tomorrow, Wednesday, the 8th. I have roughly 50 of them about ready to go. And then on Thursday, I will list, I have some more of those 3x4 journals that I sold back in April or May, whatever it was. I've got a couple more of those ready to go. And I don't know exactly how many I've got, 4 or 5, whatever. I will list those again, first come, first serve. I don't know what time. And then I've got another thing that I started. They're called scrap cluster kits. And basically, they're just a little kit to make the scrap clusters. There's little pads of paper in there. They're really kind of fun. And I'll load that the next day, I think on Friday or something. And I'll do a quick video showing you exactly what's in those. And then these 2 idea books, once they're completed. I've had several people message me and ask if they're for sale and what they would cost and blah, blah, blah. And guys, to be fair, I can't say, yes, you can have it, and no, you can't, because I've had so many people ask. So what I'll do is, it's kind of tough. I mean, I've had a hard time deciding what to charge for these because, you know, there are fewer pages, but there's a lot more on each page and there's a lot more detail. And I don't want to charge too much, but then again, I don't want to disrespect the person who bought the original scrapbook idea book. And so I don't know what I'm going to charge on these. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will just, at some point, I'll make a decision and I'll put the 2 that I'll have available in my shop and they'll go first come, first serve. That's the only way I can think of to do it to make it fair. All right, I think that's more than enough talking. If you've got any questions or comments, please put them below and I will do my very best to answer them in a quick and timely manner. Thank you for watching and happy creating.